Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how much we love to take these deep dives into really specific areas, and today is no exception.
Definitely. And this one's a fascinating topic, that's for sure.
Okay, so picture this. You're at the doctor's office, but instead of grabbing a pen and notepad, your doctor is typing your symptoms into an AI. Sounds crazy, right?
Like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right. But it might be closer to reality than we think, especially in China. We're talking about large language models, those AI systems like ChatGPT, and how they might actually change the game for Chinese medicine.
It's a really interesting area of research, especially when you consider how unique the Chinese medical system is.
Exactly. You've got ancient practices combined with cutting-edge tech, and all that information is getting recorded in those super detailed medical records.
The goldmine of information.
Totally. And that brings us to the research paper we're diving into today, CliMedBench, a large-scale Chinese benchmark for evaluating medical large language models in clinical scenarios. It's a mouthful, but basically it's like the ultimate test to see if AI can handle the pressure of working in a real Chinese clinic.
What's impressive is how they designed this test. The researchers wanted to make it as close to the real world as possible.
Right, so no more just feeding AI basic medical questions.
Exactly. They actually took thousands of real patient records, anonymized, of course, from top hospitals in China.
Wow, so they threw everything they had at these AIs.
They really did. They created 14 different clinical situations, each more complex than the last. Imagine the AI trying to make sense of a patient's entire medical history.
Doctor's notes, lab results, even traditional Chinese medicine treatments.
All of it. They wanted to see if the AI could connect the dots, just like a human doctor would.
That's where things get really interesting, right? Because It's not just about knowing the medical facts.
It's about understanding them, applying them to a specific patient.
Okay, so did they actually test how well these AIs could do that kind of high-level thinking?
Oh, absolutely. They even threw in a few curveballs.
Oh, like what?
In one scenario, they slipped in some wrong information about the patient's history, like a red herring.
Clever. They were trying to see if the AI would just blindly believe it, or if it would be smart enough to say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't add up.
Exactly.
So how'd they do? Did the AIs pass the test?
Yes. Well, not exactly. And this is where we start to see the limits of even the most advanced AI systems.
You're saying they couldn't spot the fake information?
They really struggled with it.
Yeah.
They were great at processing tons of information, even sounding like a real doctor.
Yeah.
But when it came to actually thinking critically about that information, they fell short.
So all talk and no action, huh?
Kind of. They could talk the talk, but couldn't quite walk the walk of a real doctor.
Did this happen with all the different AI systems they tested?
You know, it's interesting. Some did better than others. ChatGPT, for example.
Everyone knows that one.
Right. Really good at understanding and using language. But those trickier reasoning tasks, not so much.
It's like they aced their medical exams but froze up in the real world.
A perfect way to put it.
I have a feeling this is where the type of data they were trained on really matters, doesn't it?
It makes a huge difference. And here's something really interesting. Many of the AI models developed in China actually did better than the international ones on tasks related to Chinese medicine.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about having a big AI brain, but about having the right kind of training.
Precisely. An AI trained mainly on Western medical texts might not get those nuances of traditional Chinese practices, the terminology, even how doctors write their notes.
Makes you realize how much goes into making medical AI work, especially when you're talking about a system as complex and culturally specific as medicine. We've got to talk about that more, but maybe we can save that for the next part. Right now, I'm really curious about these specific challenges the research uncovered. Where do the AI seem to really struggle?
One of the biggest hurdles, and this is a big one for AI in general, is dealing with things that are unclear.
Because, let's be honest, most medical situations aren't as simple as what you read in a textbook.
Absolutely. Human doctors are trained to work with uncertainty, weighing different possibilities, making judgment calls, even when they don't have all the information.
Sounds stressful.
It can be, but the AIs, they really struggled with this. They wanted clear-cut answers, black and white.
No room for gray areas.
Not so much.
I can see how that would be a problem in medicine where nothing is ever guaranteed.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting a diagnosis a little bit wrong. It could mean misdiagnosing someone entirely, missing something important that a human doctor would pick up on, not realizing they need more information. The stakes are high.
Seriously high. It makes you think, even with all this amazing technology, we haven't quite figured out how to make AI that can think on its feet like a human doctor can. Making those judgment calls under pressure, dealing with incomplete information, all those things humans do almost instinctively.
It's a whole other level of thinking.
It really is. But, this research isn't just about pointing out the flaws. It's about using that knowledge to make things better, right?
Absolutely. By figuring out these challenges, we can help researchers and developers create more reliable and trustworthy AI for healthcare. It's a roadmap for the future.
Yeah.
That's really the heart of it, yeah. We're not trying to make AI that just memorizes medical textbooks.
Right. It's got to be more than that.
It's about building AI that can actually handle the real world of medicine. Because it's messy, it's complicated.
It's not always clear-cut, that's for sure. So how do we get there? How do we go from pointing out these problems to actually fixing them?
That's the big question, and it's something researchers are working on right now. One really promising idea is to move away from just data, just feeding the AI tons and tons of information.
Okay, so what? We teach it to think more like a human doctor?
In a way, yes. Instead of just data, we start building in expert knowledge, that intuition that human doctors build up over years of practice.
So instead of just recognizing patterns, it understands why those patterns exist.
Exactly. Think about it, an AI that doesn't just see that certain symptoms often show up together, but actually understands the medical reasons why.
Wow, that's a whole different level.
It could totally change how AI handles those tricky situations, those gray areas we were talking about.
And that's huge, because if the AI can't explain its thinking, why would anyone trust it?
Exactly. And that's where this idea of explainable AI comes in.
Explainable AI. Catchy.
Right. But it's about making AI that can show its work, basically. So it gives you a diagnosis, but it also tells you how it got there.
So you can see its thought process.
Exactly. Like a human doctor explaining their reasoning.
Okay, I see why that's important. More transparency builds trust.
Exactly. And it's not just about patients trusting the AI. It's about doctors being able to trust it too.
So they can see if it's making sense, if they need to adjust anything.
That becomes a partnership. AI and doctors working together, each bringing their strengths to the table.
I like that. But this brings up another issue. How do we actually make this work in the real world? How do we take these fancy AI systems and make them part of how doctors already work?
That's another one of those million-dollar questions. It's not enough to just build amazing AI.
It's got to fit into the system that's already there.
Exactly. And that's not always easy. We need to think about how to use AI in a way that helps doctors, not makes their jobs harder.
Right, because the last thing we need is more confusion, more complexity.
Especially for doctors. They're already dealing with so much.
Exactly. But we've been focusing a lot on the doctors here, and I think it's important to remember the patients too. How do they fit into all of this?
Such an important point. At the end of the day, this is all about patient care.
And patients need to have a say in how AI is used in their healthcare.
Absolutely. Patient empowerment is key. They need to be informed, they need to understand the benefits and the risks, and they need to be able to say no if they're not comfortable with something.
It's their health, after all.
It is. And building that trust with patients also means making sure the AI is fair, that it doesn't have built-in biases.
Because if the data used to train the AI is biased, then the AI itself will be biased.
Exactly. It's like if you learn from a biased source, your own thinking might be biased too. We have to be really careful about the data used to train these AI systems.
So it's not just about making AI that's smart. It's about making AI that's ethical, fair.
It's about making AI that reflects our values, and that's a much bigger conversation. And that's where research like this CliMedBench study is so important.
Because it's not just about showing off the latest tech. It's about making sure that tech is actually doing good in the world.
And doing it responsibly.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
We started by picturing AI in a Chinese doctor's office, and now we're talking about building ethical AI, making sure it's fair. But for most people listening, this probably still feels kind of futuristic, right? Like, when will this actually affect me at my doctor's appointments?
It's closer than you might think. There are already places using AI in healthcare, like right now, in the real world.
Really? Like what?
Well, there's AI that can look at medical images, like x-rays and scans. And it can help radiologists spot things that are hard to see, even for a trained eye.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing. And it means those diagnoses can be even more accurate.
And hopefully catch things earlier. Right?
Exactly. Early detection can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. But that's just one example, right? What else is out there?
Oh, so much. We're talking about AI that can create personalized treatment plans. Like, imagine if you have diabetes.
Okay.
You can have this AI that's constantly looking at your blood sugar, your activity levels, what you're eating even.
No way.
And then it adjusts your treatment based on what's happening, like having a personalized health coach 24/7.
That would be amazing. But I also think it's important to talk about the potential downsides. Because with all this cool stuff, AI can seem almost too good to be true sometimes.
Right. And it's important to be realistic. AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in ways that aren't so great.
Like what? What should people be thinking about?
Well, bias is a big one. We talked about it a little before, but it's something we really have to be careful about. If the data used to train the AI is biased in some way, then the AI itself will be biased.
And that could lead to some unfair or even harmful outcomes.
Exactly. It could even make existing inequalities in healthcare worse, which is the opposite of what we want.
So we need to make sure these AI systems are built the right way, from the ground up.
Absolutely. Ethical AI is crucial, especially in healthcare where the stakes are so high. And, another thing to be aware of is the potential for over-reliance on AI.
Meaning we start depending on it too much.
Yeah, it's like what happens if doctors start relying on AI so much that they stop thinking critically themselves?
Oh, I see what you mean.
We still need that human expertise, that intuition that doctors have. AI should be a tool to help them, not replace them entirely.
Right. It's all about finding that balance. So what can people do? How do we make sure we're using AI the right way to really make healthcare better?
Stay informed. The more you know about AI and how it's being used, the better equipped you'll be to make decisions about your own healthcare. Talk to your doctor. Do some research online.
Be an informed citizen.
Exactly. This is a conversation we all need to be a part of.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for breaking down this complex topic with us today. It's not every day we get to explore the cutting edge of AI and medicine like this.
It's been my pleasure. Really interesting stuff.
And for everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, knowledge detectives.